Welcome. As Rishi was saying this morning, my name's Ian, so I'm a cloud solution architect. I work out of the UK in our customer success unit. You might or might know that. My job really is about Power BI. I've got a background in SQL Server, joined Microsoft about 5 years ago. As another technical role, we like our three-letter acronyms there, which is a TSP, which no longer exists anymore, but that was a technology solution professional. Now moved to CSA, which is another three-letter acronym that we keep using. So if you see Microsoft people and they talk in three-letter acronyms, always call them out because they probably don't know what they actually stand for. And they'll probably use another three-letter acronym to display the first one that they did as well. So that's a top tip if you ever come across Microsoft people. They always like talking in three-letter acronyms. I will try not to do that today. I'll talk a little bit about the internal side of Power BI, particularly at Microsoft, and how we use it there. So I'm what we call a pre-sales. So I go out and talk to customers about Power BI. So unlike Rishi, I'm not in finance. But I love to talk about Power BI. It's the thing I love talking about. So grateful to be here. Happy that you're all here as well. I will try and talk a little bit about what Microsoft does. I've got a few little demos sort of inbuilt in the slide deck. So try and liven it up because the 30 slides on just talking about Microsoft isn't really that thing. I've just got 30 minutes, so bear with me. I will try and get through this and we can get to the exciting stuff. Right. So hopefully you all know Microsoft's mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So that's our mission statement. So, we take that personally. That's something that internally we would try and do. That's something that Microsoft believes in, and we try and, push out when we come and talk to customers to help you. We're not trying to compete with our customers, etc., like that. That's not a dig at some of our competitors, but we try and work with you to try and build solutions. Finance inside Microsoft. Over the years, it was, they were trying to sort of make people, how do we go and do this? Microsoft revenue's grown, but obviously from that point of view, they were always increasing that headcount internally with the finance teams to try and follow that revenue. Obviously, there was a little bit of dip, but off the back of that, since 2009, we've, our revenues have increased, but the headcount in finance hasn't increased because of automation or using internal tools to go and do that. So hopefully, off the back of today, you will be able to learn and understand, well, how can you go and do that internally yourself and go and do that. So, that's something, it's using tools to help drive productivity and take that forward. And how did we do that? So some of the things, come on, PowerPoint, it's not working. Oh dear, gremlin started already. There we go. So before, obviously, if you look at the pyramid there, there was a lot of people were doing very basic, things, very manual, etc., like that. And there was a very small set of people right at the top doing the deep analytical thinking, etc., like that. Flipping that over, where we are now, we've obviously turned that pyramid upside down, and now we've got a lot more people actually going, analyzing the data that we've got. So that's where you want to get to, that's hopefully, the basic strategy of what companies need to be doing. So from that point of view is, rather than people having to do these manual processes, how can you automate that internally? Go and take in Power BI or Power Automate. Some of the partners you're going to see later this afternoon, it's how can you use their tools to go and help you go and do that. There's a deck at the end, and I'll give you the link. I think Rishi will share the slides afterwards with everyone. There's some links to sort of some of the use cases internally. It's available if you find it online. I can put some other links to some people talking about some deeper cube building and things like that we did inside Microsoft as well. So if you ever look out for it, Chris Hamill, who used to work in finance, and Mark Regera are now part of the Power BI CAT, which is the customer advisory team. They're from our finance teams. They have now moved into Power BI, and they are actually help deliver customer, side of it. So potentially some of you theoretically could be our future, people who go and work inside Power BI at Microsoft, and that's, people who are actually using it on a day-to-day basis. It's the way to go and do this. I'm gonna. I'd love to shout at PowerPoint, but obviously it's a Microsoft product, so I can't really do that. Oh, come on, please. Right. Okay, maybe I'll just click it. One of the things did Satya Nadella, when he first came in, also changed the culture inside Microsoft as well. So moved from a very fixed mindset to what we call a growth mindset. So I don't know if people are aware, obviously Satya brought a book out around this if you want to go and read more, but it's very much about changing the attitudes of people, where rather than sort of looking at yourself and looking smart and you being the smartest person in the room, it's changed to we're all learning every day and things like that. So it's very much a culture of driving yourself forward and how can you help each other. So this growth mindset, it's a bit challenging, but we're learning every day. So if you think you're the smartest person in the room in Microsoft, you're probably not, and you're probably in the wrong room as well. So that's a lot of what we talk about now. It's going to this growth mindset and trying to empower and understand how can we work together and move that journey forward. So that's helped with our transformation going there. And some of the learning priorities, so internally, the finance team looked at how can they sort of, go and take that on board. So some of this was self-learning. So they've gone and built, for people, new people coming in, there's self-paced learning. So that means that it's not, everyone learns differently. For me, I sometimes like to go and try something, go and break it, and then understand how that works. For other people, they like reading things. I've probably not got the most best concentration for doing that. So I like actually either watching videos and then go and trying it myself. So again, it's about looking at who you've got. One set of training is obviously, it's difficult to try and do that. So you've got to look at, how can you empower people to go and do, these changes and make sure they understand it. Obviously on a Microsoft scale, that's a little bit easier. Obviously I understand that, the smaller companies, that may be a little bit difficult, but you've got to understand that people learn differently. Making that accessible, how do you go and get that? Is it on the web? Is it, offline and things like that? Everyone be able to go and access the tools. So that's another way. And being impactful. So how can you make that an interesting sort of learning? But also when people do that, how do they, make it impactful so they get, recognition for doing that? And then rewarding. So again, off the back of that recognition, it's rewarding people with, they get, we'll come to it, there's badges and things like that. How do you gamify sort of some of that learning so people want to go and do it, so they're able to go and show that they've made a change or they've learned something. So there's very much a culture. You'll see it in Microsoft and you'll see it feeding into LinkedIn. Microsoft people like to put their badges on their LinkedIn profiles and things like that, and MS Learn and things like that. That's another way that we're gamifying it to make it a little bit challenging, so everyone then goes and shows that they've done these things. Amy Hood is our CFO, so she's very much committed to this. Amy loves the details, so if you go and watch Amy and any of our presentations around finance, Amy Hood is definitely somebody who is very inspiring to watch in a finance culture sort of thing, but she pushes for all of this. So you definitely need someone at the top, sort of pushing these things down. I talk around Power BI around center of excellences, and you need a sponsor. So from that point of view, you need somebody at the top who's willing to buy into this. I know it's sometimes quite hard to find those champions internally, but if you can find a sponsor who's not doing the doing all the time, but is then leading the light and holding and saying, look, this team is the one that we should be developing, that's a good way of sort of pushing those changes internally. Nice little formula here to sort of do this. So tech intensity equals, tech adoption, tech ability, and trust. So it's something to think about, when you're trying to adopt this, how you go and build this capability. Again, it's sort of something that you can, make people look to and say, well, where are we trying to get to? The tech intensity is a lot. So it is about using the tools and using them, but, look at how you do the adoption. Is the capability internally, and then building trust. Again, I'm talking to, you have to trust the numbers. Again, a lot of this is when people are looking at different Excel spreadsheets and things like that. I've been in meetings where the first 10, 15 minutes is, where did you get your numbers from? Where did you get your numbers from? My numbers are right. my numbers are right. It's all that thing. Try and get rid of that. It's trying to build trust in a central, version of that. Power BI can help. If you've got a cube that's centralized and everyone is using that, again, that's how you can build trust, that you're not spending that time trying to validate where your figures came. But I think you also have to build understanding for people. A lot of the time, people are then looking at, well, what does one thing mean versus other things? So people have got different interpretations of, what does this field mean? How is it calculated? So again, building that trust is, opening that up and saying, well, this is how we calculate it. Is everyone bought into that idea of what does that mean? So when they go and use it, they trust that the values that they're getting are the right values, and everyone's got an understanding or a shared understanding of what that means. So internally, we've got a digital transformation network. So what this does, I'll build this out quickly, so I'm not spending too much time. But it's looking at the areas. So you've got business intelligence, and then the area that you want to get to is the advanced and analytics and AI part of it. And obviously down in the bottom right is the automation. So, that's the where the, utopia is. That's where you want to get to. But you obviously start with the business intelligence, what has happened. So you're looking at, that was what you should be doing at least today. But where you want to get to is obviously the advanced analytics. Well, what is the future and how do we get there and things like that? Is it repeatable? So that's the automation piece that you can drive then actions out of the back of that. And inside Microsoft, we obviously love using our own tools. It would be stupid of us not, to build all these nice tools and use them. And I'm sure if you get a Microsoft person coming out and talking to you, we've got hundreds of tools and they all overlap. So always this fun. Should I use a Power App for something? Should I use Azure Data Factory? I think sometimes it comes back to what are you trying to achieve? And I think sometimes we get lost in the fact that we've got all these tools and it's quite difficult for everyone to understand what each of them do. I think sometimes if you need to take a step back, not worry about the tools, understand what the problem is, and then hopefully we can help you work out what's the right tool for that. That's a partnership. I think Microsoft has hopefully changed. I've been there 5 years, and hopefully in the last 5 years we've made a change that rather than being, look, we just license you and we come and see you every 4 years, and this is the bill that you pay. We're looking to try and be a partnership. Build these partnerships with you. It's not just about us, selling you the tools and you using them. It's about how can we, with you, build, great solutions and things like that. So a lot of what I try and do in the customer success unit is, adopted the tools, and it's how can we make you successful using them and continue to be successful using them from that part. Quickly builds that. So this builds on the previous slide, or the previous one slide, about where all of these areas fit in. So obviously, technical foundations, it's looking at everything on that original slide. And this is how you go and build out internally if you're going to build a training or understanding how you're going to move forward with making this work. These are the sections that you should be trying to work on. Again, I'll make the slides available. It's just how you do the storytelling. So a lot of what I try and do is the storytelling. So it's understanding customer problems, then looking at other customers. Well, how have they done it? How can we help you do it with the tools we've got, and understanding those problems? So a lot of it is the storytelling really helps. And internally, that's something you all need to learn to do. And I know that can be difficult. It's about, making something that's interesting, that you've got something that someone wants to use. So finding that story that people want to use. So being able to take the tool and building something that is something that everyone wants to use. And that's sometimes the hardest bit. And once you've got that, the adoption then will grow off the back of that. Internally, we've got lots of training, so as I was talking about before. So internal contact, webinars. They've got this portal internally for finance called the Finance Journey. It's very centric to them, and that people can go and learn. Again, learning in the way that they want to. We've also got, everyone's got access to Microsoft Learn, so we've got some things on there which obviously talk more about the technology, and then LinkedIn Learning. Again, Microsoft own LinkedIn, so a lot of the things on there as well, we push out as much as we can. But, again, it's building a library internally. How can you empower users who are going to use the tools, etc., off the back of that? There was a question? Yes, it is. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah. So some of the things in there, I might be able to get a little bit on that and talk about. There is a link, I think, at the end, and it talks a bit more about the content and the things that we've gone and built. So that's available on the web, so you can go and see that. So, but yeah, definitely. And the question was just, could we see some more of that content? Of course, it's obviously NDA'd, sort of that thing. But yeah, but internally, that's what we've gone and done. So when people start, there is almost an academy there that finance people can go and learn and then, do their training. We love a bit of training in Microsoft. So, every year, every financial year, we're going and we're learning new things and stuff like that. And that's part of our learning process that we're, given to go and say, right, how do we, stretch ourselves? And that's part of the growth mindset as well, to say, right, well, how can we go and do more, with the time we've got? Yeah. And again, this is some of the ways that we do this. So we've got SharePoint. So SharePoint's the way we deliver that content. Teams, again, and other solutions are available. But Teams, obviously, being a Microsoft product, especially in the pandemic, it's been useful for us to be able to go and use Teams as a way of connecting people and then being able to share that. I know previously emails were great, but if you were never on that distribution list or something like that, you missed it. Whereas at least in Teams, it's there hopefully forever. So it's a good way, similar to Yammer before. If you centralize that, you've got a community that, questions are being asked, FAQs and things like that, that's central questions. So, email thing changed, people get lost or get left off those. And again, I talked about the badges. So we've got success factors, you've earned the badges off the back of that. And obviously the shares and likes. So again, building that as people deliver content or give, sort of a solution out there, how they did it, building that. We've got something internally in the team, so it's called Mercy Bucco, where people get nominated and say, thanks for doing something, that person really helped us. And then there's a voucher. I won't say which company that they're doing it is, but there's a voucher for a very big retailer that you can go and win every month. Seems a little bit strange, but I will say that, it's a good way of people sort of, getting rewards for going and helping people. And again, back to Amy, so there's the finance learning paths. And you can say, so this is some of the portals that we were talking about before. You can see, so this is some of the internal bits. So you can see there's a technical foundations, beginning data analytics, immediate data analytics. So you can build on those foundations. So there's a learning path all the way through that people can do it. And again, you can see inside the finance learning path, similar to what MS Learn has got, there's a whole path internally that people can take and go and do along the side of that. And again, there's a cycle of learning and innovation. So it's, Amy at the top, how do we foster this growth mindset? Obviously, that comes from Satya originally. How do we, that drives the innovation. So how do we go and do new things? So again, in the link I've got at the end, it talks about the internal projects we've done and how those have been used. So you'll see that it lists the solutions we've gone. So either using SQL Server or Power BI. Most of them have got Power BI in there because that's the way we visualize it. But you can see the technologies we've used to sort of do those innovation. And then obviously create shareable content. So how did we go and do that? We want to go and share that with externally. It's good for us if we can show our customers how we're doing it internally. That means that, we're trying to hold ourselves up and say, yeah, we're actually using our own tools to go and deliver this. And then best practices, internally, how do we do that? And then hopefully we can share that with our customers as well. See then, Satya. Obviously, the statement there, I'll let everyone read it. I won't read it out, but obviously talks about the growth mindset. And obviously a passion. So, hopefully you see with a lot of people who come and talk, it's a passion about talking about, the things they do in their job and how that translates to, coming to speak to you. And obviously I talked about MS Learn, so that there's a lot of things on there about going and learning. I've got a quick couple of demos that I'm going to do now. So these are related to Power BI. So you might be aware of these, you might not be. So Power BI metrics, it was called Goals, but then we bought another product, which then has become Goals. So Microsoft love changing names of things. So if you're aware of Power BI Goals, it's now called Power BI metrics. So this is one way that, you can use this to drive teams sort of KPIs, etc., like that. So this is one tool that's quite good. If you've not seen it, built on top of Power BI, allows you to go and set some metrics, which is still not the greatest name because metrics inside Power BI means something else when you're doing some things. But we had to change it from goals. But this is quite a good one that you can see. Just to give a bit of overview, that's live now, so you can go and use it. It's being driven, similar to Power BI. If you've seen that, monthly releases, etc. You should be able to go and use it. I think that's free for everybody. So not, if you've got premium, you understand that. I think it's available for Pro as well for Pro users. So can go off the back of that one. Excel, just a quick touch on that. So everyone loves Excel. You can also now join Excel to Power BI data sets. So if you're using Power BI data sets, and you've got a lot of users still using Excel, you can build data sets in Power BI and then link Excel to those as well. So from that point of view, if you can't get people to jump away from Excel, you can do a lot more now with linking that data that's a central version of the truth in Power BI. So in Power BI, when you build a report and you upload it to the service, it splits it in two. So you get the report canvas and you get the data set. So what you can do is just upload data sets and get then Excel connecting to those. A lot of the data types and things like that you put in that data set can then be linked through to Excel. So there's a lot of content online about that if you've not been aware of it. Teams, we talked a little bit about Teams. So obviously that's a good way to share your content. And again, getting the versions out there, because then people can comment on it and make it aware. So Teams or Slack or some of the others, Jira Confluence or something like that, share it internally. Make sure you're using that as a way to share your content. This is going a little bit out. Obviously, I don't know how many of you have got HoloLenses. Not the cheapest thing to go and buy. You can get Power BI inside it, and you can go and then actually virtual reality or augmented reality, I should be saying, you can go and get your Power BI inside of that. So, that's see, maybe a little bit far off for everyone, but there are obviously things where Power BI works inside our augmented reality. If you go and see some of our conferences, Ignite and things like that, I would definitely go and try out one of the HoloLenses. They are pretty cool. Something that's maybe a little bit more accessible for everyone, something called data in space. So it's not app in space, but it's quite a cool thing. So you can actually, using anchor points, so inside offices or inside, in a production lines or things like that, you can make an anchor point. And then if you use your phone and use the Power BI app, you can go and use the I think the camera. It will work out that there's a Power BI report there and things like that, and you can see that they're looking at it. You can then go and open that inside your phone. So that may be a good way of, if people are out and about, we've seen it, if you're in queues or something like that, you can look at how long wait times are and things like that while you're standing there. Or if you're out in the production line, good way of going to sort of do that. And you get the full mobile view as well inside of that, so it builds it. So if you're not used with the mobile, that's a cool way of sort of maybe, putting things out and about. And obviously security, so I don't know how much of you are aware. Obviously, there's some things now that have been brought in with DLP. So talking about how you protect your data. So if you've got Office, etc., along that, what you can do is go and make sure all the data is sensitive. So if people export it from Power BI into PowerPoint or something like that, the sensitivity labels follow it all the way through. So something definitely to do this. Just making sure I've got enough time to finish on this. If you're not aware of, there's a Power BI roadmap. So there's a Power BI report, which actually tells you what's coming in Power BI. So that's built on top of our roadmap that's out there. So there's a release plan if you go and look it up. I'm going to try and do something now, which sometimes doesn't always work. Hence why I've got if you're doing like I am at the moment, usually when your Power BI reports, you're just sticking, a static report in there. I'm hopefully going to move to this version, which is actually one of the recent sort of changes. I'll put my glasses on so I can see. This is Power BI embedded inside PowerPoint. So I'm hoping this works. So I can interactively. Oh, come on! I'm sure this is. Oh, is it going to work? Oh, it might not work in presentation mode. Oh, is it going to work if I come over this side? Oh, it might work better over here. Oh, there we go. So fully interactive Power BI report inside of PowerPoint. Now, there is one caveat on that. You need to be on a certain release candidate of Office. So obviously if your whole organization is on a lower one, it's only just come out, it might take a bit of a while to sort of go and do this, but this is pretty good, but it's a fully interactive report. You can do all your slices. This is obviously, seems to be taking a bit of time. Oh, I need to plus that. There we go. So it's all that. So I can go off, fully interactive, links, etc. like that. We'll then go and jump out to the web for that, which has come on my other screen. But yeah, just to make that's pretty cool at the moment as something to go and do. And there's one last slide. Am I going to be able to get PowerPoint to jump to that? So this is the click through to a finance story, which has got some more of the examples. I'm hoping I can get that to jump up. Oh, maybe I need to go into this screen. There we go. And then that's probably going to pop up on this screen. There we go. Let's try and move this across. So this has got a lot more information about some of the use cases that we had inside. If you go down here, look, these are some of the things, and it talks about the technologies that we used, and these are the problems or the things and how we solve them. So there's a lot more info. So in the slides, you'll come and get that. It is available on the web, so that this isn't hidden inside Microsoft. There's a full list. You know, obviously Xbox, huge amount of volumes of information coming through on that. You know, how do we go and do that with millions of data using machine learning, etc. like that. So hopefully that. And I'm just looking around. Am I on time? Not on time? Cool.
Got a couple of questions. If you could repeat the question.
Yep.
So we've got one around data lake, and how do you build a sustainable solution with Azure Data Lake and Power BI?
Wow, that's a big question. That is, yeah, that's a workshop question in a way. So I suppose depending on the size. So again, you know what I said at the beginning is understanding the problem before we go into the technology. So a lot of some of our solutions at the moment, and again, is this recorded, Rishi, or not? Or depending on how what I'm going to say next might get me into a lot of trouble with some of my colleagues.
We've seen stuff like with data bots, right?
Yeah.
Where the data lake technology is essentially, or SQL technology has been brought more and more into the Power BI world, more to business users, and that's generally Microsoft's strategy, right? It's democratization. It's bringing all of that to users who need to use it, not to just IT functions, right? So that's
and I think it's looking at the problem. So you know, a lot of some of the marketing hype out there at the moment is you need a data lake.
Exactly.
But do you really need it? So, you know, from my point of view, I'm from a SQL Server background. A lot of data warehouses now still run on SQL Server. And I think it's about the volume of data and where you're trying to get to and the technologies. Obviously, there's a lot of move to the cloud at the moment, mainly because Microsoft is providing services that you couldn't get on-prem. So a lot of the ML, AI sort of services need to be running in the cloud because we're then standing up big, you know, sort of APIs that you go and call, and that needs compute power that just wouldn't be available on-prem. So again, it's looking at the hybrid solution. Some stuff you will then keep on-prem. You know, Microsoft would love you to move to the cloud. We'd love you to move to our cloud, you know, but, you know, we understand that customers have different needs for different things. So if you're running in a different cloud, we'll try and make it as easy as possible to access that data and work with our solutions and things like that. And I think it goes back to this data lake. I think it's understanding volumes of data. You know, data lakes, if you look at it, it's very similar, you know, when you look at the raw and, you know, the curated and, you know, the final thing. If you go back to the previous, before the modern data warehousing, we had, ingest the thing. We had a source layer, and then we had, you know, a transform layer, and then we had the final layer and things like that. So I think, you know, a lot of the technologies out there are very similar to what we were doing before, and it is about scale. You know, you don't need a data lake if you're only got 10 megs of data or something like that. You know, you've got to think about what are you trying to achieve for that volume and things like that. If the long-term goal is there, great, get your understanding about it. But, you know, from my point of view, if a SQL Server or a data mart or something like that works, use it. Because standing up, you know, a data lake and things like that can be quite, you know, complicated, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. You know, I talk a lot about the scaffolding that's required around that. You need to understand, you know, some of the security. You need to put in, you know, VNets and things like that, which is then something that IT need to get involved in. You know, if you're a finance person and you're in the business, that becomes quite difficult to go and do that. Whereas, you know, using the data marts, which has come along recently, it may be easier. And it's about, you know, Power BI, I see it as something that goes and gets quick insight. So from a business point of view, when I talk to users, it's about, can you go and prove that the data you've got adds value to today? Because there's no point in IT going building you a data warehouse that takes 6 months. By the time they come back and deliver that, the business has moved on to go and do something else. If you can prove there's value in it today and you can do that, you've got a pattern that you can go and do. Then you can go and talk to IT and say, look, this is value. We know that the CEO, you know, has got value and we can deliver. We've got the answers today. Go and build this into the ETL. Go and do it. We'll carry on with this. We've almost got the logic there to show how it works. Carry on with that. And it's, you know, I'm from an IT background, and I'm seeing it more that we need to work better together to go and deliver that. If Power BI helps you deliver that via a data mart, go and do that. The longer term thing is build it into a data lake. Great. But it's about you as a business need to be moving. You know, it's a fast world out there at the moment. You need to be able to react to that. You know, if data lakes takes too long to go and deliver that, then you're obviously pushing against the wrong door. You need to find the right thing, or you'll go and find another tool. You know, that's the thing. You know, some of my colleagues will, you know, and you think if Power BI or, you know, Synapse isn't delivering that today, you'll go and find it in Excel. You'll go and find it in a competitive tool that does allow you to deliver it today. You know, and then you'll have shadow IT, cottage industries, and things like that, which then even become harder to deliver. So I think it's, you know, when I talk about the center of excellence, it's about how you can grow this together, working in a partnership.
The key is centralizing, right, and reusability. You want to get your data and your logic into a place where it could be built once, built properly, built well, and then everyone else can use the same data. And you know, data flows and data marts. I'll show it a bit later actually, but those are ways to centralize that data. So all those connectors you've got to all of your source systems, you can bring that data in, shape it for your finance automation, and you can set up security on it so that when people connect to it, they can only see the data they're supposed to see. And that's all done through a UI. It is actually data lake behind the scenes. Data flows is actually writing the data lake, and data marts are writing it to a SQL database. But you don't need to worry about what sits behind it. So data lake is not if you want to centralize it, which is the key thing, and you want to make it reusable, data lake obviously does offer that, but you don't need to just build a data lake to do it. You can use Power BI and have it utilize data lake and databases in the background. And I'll show some of that. Got a question. I've got one more question online, and then we'll go to anything in the house that we better move on to Mark. But actually, it's kind of related to security as well. It's around how the Power BI plugin in PowerPoint, can we restrict access to only the people who are allowed to see data?
So it still works on so whoever's logged in will only see their data and things like that. So from that point of view, it's not based on, it still uses your credentials to connect to the Power BI behind the scenes. So it's not using the person who built the PowerPoint and things like that, or the person who's there. It will still have that full credentials all the way through. So if you can't see the data, because you've got hold of the PowerPoint, it will still not log you into Power BI, but you know, it'll make a connection to Power BI and use your credentials to go and pull the data you need.
So it's a much more secure way than static images in PowerPoint. Yep, got a question there from Jude, and Naveen will come to you in a minute. Hey, Jude.
Oh, is it? Oh, right.
And what I noticed that if you open it in SharePoint or PowerPoint, and let's be honest here, no one's going to be keeping PowerPoints on their own C drive in reality. So you can't seem to interact. It's not completely working yet. You have to open it up in the local app if you want to play with it and expect it to work.
Interesting. I've not seen that, so that's feedback I'll take. I'll go and have a look internally and stuff like that. I don't know, has that been raised, you know, on on any forums, or is that something you've just seen, or do you know?
I believe it's in preview, so maybe I'm jumping the gun.
The preview might be, yeah.
That's
the get out clause for me at the moment. It's obviously in preview, but
Thank you.
Cheers. That's really interesting. High-level strategic talk. I'm really interested in a slide you had on things to learn, and one of them was like data science, and I think storytelling was on there.
Yep.
Basically, I think a really big part of storytelling is compelling data visualization and kind of infographic level visualization design. With that in mind, is Microsoft going to say invest more in the custom visuals that you can get in Power BI and maybe the out-of-box visuals you can get? Because what I've kind of noticed is that you get really good basics like gorgeous, bar charts, line charts, and area charts, but the kind of more exotic ones are left to standalone custom visual developers, such as Sankey diagrams.
Yep.
Again, someone built it on their own, it's great, but it just has little things which are missing from it, which mean you can't quite use it, you can't quite get away with using it in a business. Or, I don't know, other stuff like, I mean, what's very popular now is a Voronoi style pie chart, which is basically a circuit, which is basically like the Power BI tree map,
right?
But it's in a circle, and it's kind of becoming quite popular among infographic designers. It basically is better than a pie chart because it kind of you see areas as blocks rather than slices, which is quite hard on the eye to see. That's why people don't really like pie charts. But it would be nice to see if you're prioritizing storytelling, more kind of support for custom visual developers, or Microsoft taking more in-house and kind of expanding that, as I suggest. I mean, is that part of the plan?
That's a good question. The question was that more intensive.
Yeah, I'd hope so. So I personally, because I'm based in the UK, I don't know 100%. So I'll be open and honest. I don't know 100% on that one. Obviously, I think the ones that come out of the box are ones we certify, and then obviously make it easy. The third-party customization ones, I will say, yeah, they have some challenges around that, mainly because we sandbox them, obviously, to make sure that they obviously from that point. So, yeah, it is something that, I know the team would love to do more with that one. Obviously, it's a cost investment. Power BI has become part of that. They obviously do release slowly ones, and they obviously try to keep on top of those. Honestly, I don't know.
So, I mean, I was speaking to the product team about this just this week, actually, because I was in Denmark, and Will Thompson, the product team were there, and the same questions kind of came up as well, right? What's the investment in visuals? Why have we got so many really powerful custom visuals? Why can't Microsoft either just buy them and incorporate them to the product, or just build it themselves? The response is Microsoft are investing more in the visualization, so that is happening, but also, that partner community, that vendor community is thriving, and they don't want to cannibalize that, right? If people have got products like Tabular Editor to do some of the development stuff, and they've got tools, custom visuals, then they want to support them rather than just building it into the product themselves, which is fair enough. So from a commercial point of view, I think
it's a balance. Yeah, I think totally agree. It would be good if we could do more off the back of it. You obviously look at the roadmap. There's I think Power BI and the whole thing, it's again, where do they invest the money? I think if the Power BI ideas.com, they look at that. So from the point of view is, if that's something, the more the community shout and say, we want these visualizations internally, they take that on board, and they will try and push that in. So again, I think it's about being vocal and saying, look, this would be good. Could you do more with this? And I know they review that quite heavily and look what the community is. Power BI isn't successful without the community. So, from that point of view, I think I hear what you're saying. Obviously Richie was speaking this week with them. I think they would like to do more, but as you've seen the journey for 5 years for Power BI, there are now so many pieces. It's very competitive to say that, yeah. But yes, we should be probably investing more in the visualization.